It's such a dramatic impact when you encounter Jesus. You want to know the one who's given his life to save yours. So people who encountered Christ, they yielded their lives to him, and the result of yielding your life to him is you become a worshipper of him. And so, I'm mindful that sometimes people, they do get hurt in church because people say things and do things and hurt them. And I think Jesus experienced that. There was a time when Jesus was in the synagogue and he said, "Today, this scripture is fulfilled in your midst." And they were outraged. They dragged him out of the synagogue. They took him to the brow of a cliff, ready to throw him off. But it wasn't his hour. It wasn't his hour to be thrown off a cliff and die. And it says, as they were about to do it, he turned around and he walked away. And probably, if you could have seen in the spirit realm, you may have seen that there was some spiritual activity happening there for that to happen. And the scripture says the next Sabbath, Jesus was in the synagogue. And here we have just the deep gratitude that the believer feels toward Christ for what he's done. And when you love Christ, you love his body. You love his body. And his body is called the church. So when people encountered Jesus and they had that encounter with him, they worshipped. This account in John 10 places Christ back in Galilee. The disciples said to him, "Rabbi, the Jews were just now seeking to stone you," as we saw in our last session. "Are you going there again?" In other words, if you go to Judea, it will mean certain death. And you know what? They were right. Jesus knew it. They knew it. And he still went. After saying these things, he said to them, "Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep." And oh my. As a member of the D generation, Dr. John, that expression tells us how Jesus views physical death. And for any fellow members of the D generation, this is a great way to describe leaving this life and going into the next. But Jesus says this, "Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I go to awaken him." And the disciples said to him, "Lord, if he has fallen asleep, he will recover." And John's got this in here so that you understand they were at times thick as two bricks. Because Jesus says things and they're like, "Oh, he's fallen asleep." And they think, "Oh, he's having a nine-nights." Jesus had spoken of his death. But they thought he meant taking rest in sleep or having a nine-nights. And then Jesus told them plainly, "Lazarus has died. And for your sake," what are the next words to come out of his mouth? If you were writing this, it wouldn't be, "and I am glad." Because something great was going to happen in the midst of this dark hour. Because the consequences of not believing what Jesus actually said about himself are eternal. Not because I say so, or some guru says so, or anyone says so, but because Jesus himself said so. She said to him, "Yes, Lord. I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, the eternal Son of God," which is why God is the eternal Father, "who is coming into the world." When she said this, she went and called her sister Mary, saying in private, "The teacher's here and is calling for you." And when she heard it, she rose quickly and went to him. Now, Jesus had not yet come into the village, but was still in the place where Martha had met him. When the Jews who were with her in the house, consoling her, saw Mary rise quickly and go out, they followed her, supposing that she was going to the tomb to weep there. Now, when Mary came to where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet, saying to him, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." Did this profoundly affect Jesus when he saw Mary? the one whom we had already been told that when they came to host Jesus at their house, Martha was busy in the kitchen cooking, and Mary said, I'd just rather sit at the feet and listen to what he has to say.
We hope you've enjoyed this preview. If you'd like to listen to the full message, please click the link down in the description.